Welcome back to DaBoot Tragedies. The Saints will have major changes on defense this year. Obviously, Dennis Allen is still a head coach, so the defensive philosophies and things will still remain the same. But losing both of your co-defensive coordinators in one offseason will definitely be a challenge to overcome. And we'll just first start off with talking about Ryan Nielsen. He's been with the Saints for 6 years. He's been a big help in development of the defensive line, that defensive run game that's been really, really solid over the years with the Saints. So credit to him. Unfortunately, he's going to the Falcons, so we're not cheering for you. We're not cheering for any success over there for you. Sorry, the game is the game. But in all seriousness, he's going to be a pretty good loss. He's going to be a pretty good loss. That defensive line has been playing great over the last 6 seasons that he's been here. Not this past season where they kind of regressed to. I don't even know where they regressed to because it was just an awful performance by the defensive line this year. But defensive coordinator leaving, a familiar voice in the locker room leaving, that's going to be a hurdle to get over. But we'll see what happens on that defensive line front. The only pros I can get out of this is maybe just a new face will spark a fire in some of these defensive linemen. Maybe just hearing a different voice in the locker room, would change some things up. Because, you kind of get complacent, consistent once you just keep doing the same thing over and over a year. So maybe, a new voice, a new face will come change some things. Also, he was very high on the big defensive ends, the big linemen. As you can see, Davenport, Peyton Turner, both playing defensive ends, but both are very, very big defensive ends in that 4-3 system. Maybe we go change it up a little bit. We're one of the only teams in the NFL that don't have that pass rusher that's, about 240, just coming off the edge, fast as hell. We just don't have that. And that's because Ryan Nielsen, Dennis Allen, obviously their philosophies were the big defensive end. So maybe someone, new would come in and maybe we'll change that up a little bit. Obviously you're not going to get Nick Bosa. You're not going to get TJ Watts, Shaq Barrett and guys like that. But Brian Burns, you just need a athletic guy coming off the edge. We just haven't had one of those guys in the Saints. As long as I can remember, we just haven't had one of those guys. So maybe we'll get a guy like that. Now that he's gone, maybe the philosophy changes a little bit. So Ryan Nielsen, he is going to the Atlanta Falcons. But the guy I really want to talk about, Chris Richard. This is the real head scratcher right here. The Saints parted ways with Chris Richard yesterday, and I don't want to hit a parted ways. That's a cop out to me. He was either fired or he left. Parted ways is, hey, let us know what really happened. What it seems like is Chris Richard wanted the bigger role in the defense, and rightfully so. I mean, you don't want to be that, have that defensive coordinator tag for however many years, and you're not really the defensive coordinator. It's just a position. It's just a nameplate. You're not really doing anything. It's almost like Pete Carmichael and Sean Payton. Yeah, he was the offensive coordinator for 10 years, but what did he really do? What experience did he really gain? And you can see that now that Sean Payton is gone and Pete Carmichael had to fend for himself. Chris Richard obviously didn't want that, under his belt for much longer, so he probably went to Dennis Allen and said, hey, I want to call plays. I want to be the real defensive coordinator. And Dennis Allen was like, absolutely not. So maybe they just mutually agreed to part ways. Nick Underhill did tweet that there was some philosophy things that Dennis Allen and Chris Richard didn't agree on. And I can see that, man. Every coach is going to be a little different. For the most part, defense is the same. But, it's small things that people are going to disagree on. And maybe Chris Richard just wanted to go a different route. Maybe he wanted to get a chance to be his own man as defensive coordinator. And you can't fault him for that. However it went down, it's still a shame that the New Orleans Saints got rid of both defensive coordinators before Pete Carmichael got, fired or parted ways with. Absolutely shameful. Absolutely shameful. We should have done everything in our power to at least keep one of these guys around, especially Chris Richard, because Ryan Nielsen, hey, he got a DC job. I get it. If Chris Richard gets a DC job, then it's no complaint from me. He got a job. He got a pay grade. He's calling plays, and things like that. So no problem if both of these guys get a defensive coordinator job and they're both calling plays, then I see no issue with this. But if Chris Richard just goes somewhere else and be an assistant or a secondaries coach or whatever it may be, I'm going to be highly upset that we didn't keep him around. If you just look at our defense from last year, our secondary, which is what Chris Richards coached, cornerback, safeties, was the best part of the defense last year. One of the best parts of the defense was the secondary. We were second in defensive pass yards, only behind a team that's in the Super Bowl right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the only team we were behind in passing yardage per game this season. And we let this guy go for absolutely nothing. Obviously, he wanted the bigger role, so I'm not going to say for nothing. But it doesn't seem like any effort, was put forth to try to keep one of these guys around. And like I said, I'm not blaming anybody in this situation. That's what happens. When you have a good defense, people are going to want to pluck away from that defense and try to steal your players, try to steal your coaching staff. So that doesn't surprise me. Dennis Allen's defense has been one of the best in the NFL for the last 5 to 6 seasons. So this isn't This isn't new. This isn't new. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised by this by any stretch of the imagination. I'm only surprised that we're losing so much on defense, but the offense is just remaining the same. That's what I don't get. That's what I don't get with this franchise. The defense, the secondary, defensive line, things that have been a staple of Saints football for the last 4 to 5 years. We're losing all of those people, which you expect that because they've been good for so long. But this offense absolutely awful and nothing changes. That makes no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, obviously they bonded. Obviously they got some trauma together and they bonded over Sean Payton, probably cussing both of them out. They were the top coordinators under Sean Payton, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. So obviously there's history there. But like I said earlier this offseason, I'm so glad Dennis Allen is getting to do what he wants. You don't want to keep your defensive coordinators because you want to call plays. That is your right. You're the head coach. I'm glad. Do everything you want this offseason. This is your second season. Get whatever coach you want. Get whatever roster you want. You got another first-round pick from Mickey Loomis. I want you to do everything the Dennis Allen way. You know why? So if it blows up in your face, it's no damn excuse. Your first season, you were thrown into it. I get it. Jameis Winston got hurt. You went through Andy Dalton. Offensive linemen were hurt. Some people on defense were hurt. Hey, you can get every excuse in the book. This is year two. You had plenty of time to evaluate the quarterbacks on your roster. If you want to go in a different direction, you can. You had 17 games to evaluate your offensive coordinator. You could have chose to go in a different direction. You didn't. You let both of your defensive coordinators go, co-defense coordinators. They're both out the window because you didn't want to give up play calling duty, which I'm not mad at because the defense has been playing pretty good. But you made this bed. You're going to have to lay in it. So if you fall flat on your face, just know, do not let the door hit you because I'm slamming that motherfucker behind you. I'm going to just let you know that right now. I just know if the Saints start this year off bad, it might be a mid-season firing. I just have a feeling. I don't think the Saints have the guts to do it, but I can just see it. The Saints started off like 1-4 or some nonsense next season with the easy schedule we have. I can definitely see a mid-season firing of Dennis Allen and then somebody else taking over the reins. Who? I don't know because we don't have a coach on this staff that I say, they could promote them to interim head coach. It won't be Pete Carmichael. Oh, my God. No. I don't know who's going to be the defensive coordinator. I don't know who wants to come in and be a defensive coordinator, but not actually a defensive coordinator. Who wants to really do that? You're going to have to find a cornerbacks coach or a linebacker coach or a D-line coach and probably promote them to defensive coordinator because they're not really going to be a defensive coordinator. They're just going to have that title but not really doing anything, and that's going to cost them, trouble down the line trying to get a job. Look at Eric Bieniemy and the Chiefs. No one wants to get this man a shot at being the head coach because they think it's all Andy Reid. So he's probably going to be looking for another OC job in the future because he doesn't really get to call plays, or he does call plays. It's always been, some turmoil and conspiracy theories going on over there, who's calling plays and who's not. So I can see Chris Richardson and Ryan Nielsen, wanting to further their careers, want to be DC's call plays, become a head coach, maybe something like that. Everybody wants to move up. But as far as the Saints goes, man, we'll see what we do on defense. Let's see who we hire. I'm not like super mad at this just because when your defense is good, people are going to leave. It's simple as that. Well, it's more off-season things to come. I'm definitely going to get started on some mock drafts now that we got that first-round pick. I'm going to probably do one every Monday. Be on the lookout for the mocks. We probably do mock draft Mondays and start those rolling. Who knows what I'll do? Maybe take some quarterbacks, defensive linemen. I've been seeing some mocks out there laughing at some of y'all. Some of y'all think we're moving up to the number 1 pick with the Bears. I don't know what type of draft capital y'all think we have. But I'm going to tell you right now, the 29th pick is not going to get you to move up to that number 1 pick unless you're giving up like 4 first-round picks. Let's be honest. And after what we've done to get this first-round pick back, I don't think Mickey Loomis is going to be interested in doing anything like that. But I'll have my mocks a little later on, kind of go through some of these guys, make it fun, make it interesting, and we'll see what happens. But the Saints lose both defensive coordinators, and we'll see how this turns out. Let's see who Dennis Allen hire. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below about that. As always, this is DaBoot Tragedies, and I'm out.
So one last time, let's make it the greatest